Dui de la fin ban koi kum, nong not, di not. Chi ti din muc nuoi ne ko the hin dung tung jie. Tung hoi tho, tung jiad mo hoi lon tren, tai jung dylan kai cheek Porsche qua han by Ingian nat. Du dai hien tai, 52.300 ky2, koang 10.2002 tiang on. De la ban dan show video kachian dai 55 to 65 food. Lo I ma nuoi ta sem din, 3 geo sang va van combo duok. Move your car out of my driveway right now, son. I will count to 5 in my head, and if it's still there when I get to 4, the rest of your life is going to change. I never raised my voice. I didn't need to. Something in the way I said it, flat, calm, the same tone I once used to inform a vice chairman of the board that federal marshals were waiting downstairs, made the kid finally look up from his phone. He smirked anyway. 5 minutes, pops. Go water your roses. His name was Dylan James Brooks. 21 years old. 6'2" of inherited money, inherited arrogance, and zero earned consequences. The car blocking my driveway was a 2024 Porsche 911 Carrera 4 GTS, guards red over black leather, ceramic brakes, sport chrono package, MSRP $89,400 before taxes, and the $12,000 in options his late grandfather had ticked every box for. Graduation gift. Title still had the old man's name on it when he died. My name is Charles Raymond Whitaker, 62. Retired Senior Director of Corporate Compliance and Special Investigations for First Atlantic Bank. 25 years making men who stole 9 figures cry in glass-walled conference rooms. Widower of Eleanor Rose Whitaker, taken by pancreatic cancer 731 days before that Tuesday morning in early March. The neighbors still left casseroles on my porch and called me Poor Charlie. They were about to learn just how unpoor I was. I asked him again. Politely. Then not so politely. Then with the voice that once made a chief risk officer soil a $4,000 suit. He laughed, took a selfie with the Porsche perfectly framed behind my private property, tow away zone sign, captioned it, "Okay Boomer," for his 54,000 followers, and strolled off toward campus like the sidewalk belonged to him. 5 minutes later his mother arrived like a Category 4 hurricane in Lululemon. Kimberly and Brooks crossed Maple Lane swinging a 40-ounce Stanley Quencher like it was Excalibur. Perfectly highlighted hair, Canada Goose vest even though it was 62 degrees, AirPods in, phone already recording. She introduced herself as HOA President, Neighborhood Liaison, Co-Chair of Beautification, Vice President of the Women's Club, and Treasurer of the Willow Creek High Booster Club. Then she spent 11 full minutes explaining why my driveway technically fell under shared visual easement protocols, traffic flow equity considerations, the spirit of suburban cooperation, and the precedent set by the 2019 Henderson Parking Accord, which I later discovered she had personally invented. I stood barefoot on cold concrete, still holding Eleanor's chipped daisy mug, and cataloged every syllable the way I once cataloged wire transfers to the Caymans. Old reflexes never die, they just wait. That was day 1. Day 2. He stayed 43 minutes and left one empty monster can on the lawn like a dog marking territory. Day 4. He brought a friend and a Bluetooth speaker that played future bass remixes at volumes that rattled Eleanor's crystal in the china cabinet she'd inherited from her grandmother. Day 7. He left a note on my door in Sharpie on the back of a Chick-fil-A receipt. Lighten up, Grandpa. It's just concrete. Nobody owns the air. Day 10. He filmed himself doing 3 perfect donuts in my driveway while his passenger hung out the window screaming, "Okay Boomer," for TikTok. The video hit 1.2 million views in 48 hours. Day 14. I called the non-emergency line for the first time. Officers Ramirez and Holt arrived. Ramirez played pickleball doubles with Kimberly every Thursday morning at the country club. They looked at my signs, looked at Dylan's smirk, looked at Kimberly's perfectly timed tears, and told me it was a civil matter. Dylan livestreamed the entire interaction under the title "Local Karen Calls Cops on College Kids for Existing." Day 17. He escalated to horn honking patterns. 3 short, 2 long, 3 short. Some kind of signal to his friends. It started at 7:32 a.m. and continued every 4 minutes for 2 hours. Mrs. Henderson next door, 81 years old and hard of hearing, still came outside in her robe asking if someone was dying. Day 21. They turned my driveway into a full tailgate. 8 cars, 23 kids, 2 portable speakers, a cooler the size of a coffin, and a banner strung between my oak trees that read "Parking is a human right." Kimberly arrived at 8:07 with 2 boxes of Krispy Kreme, a selfie stick, and a Facebook Live declaring, "We stand united with our youth against the weaponization of outdated ordinances by toxic territorial seniors." I didn't sleep for 72 hours straight. I sat in the dark living room and stared at the memorial garden Eleanor and I had built the year the doctors gave her 18 months, and she stretched it to 26 by sheer spite. The jasmine was just starting to bud. Every morning at 7:20, I watered those plants and talked to her like she was still kneeling beside me in her stupid sun hat and gardening gloves with the hole in the left thumb. Dylan's bass had shaken petals off the roses 5 mornings in a row. Something inside me that had been asleep since the funeral woke up cold, calm, and absolutely merciless. My sister Laura flew in from Charlotte the following weekend. She found me at 3:12 a.m., surrounded by municipal codes, property surveys, and a binder already 4 inches thick labeled Brooks Violations, Volume 1 and 2. She took one look at the wall of evidence and whispered, "Jesus Christ, Charlie. You're not grieving anymore. You're hunting." She stayed 8 days and helped me build the perfect cage. We hired Tom Harding, the best land surveyor in 3 counties. He spent 72 hours with a robotic total station and drove iron pins into every corner of my lot. The certified plat he produced was accurate to 1/100th of a foot and cost $911. I paid it in cash and framed the receipt. We ordered 8 commercial-grade towaway signs from a company that supplied the Virginia DOT. Reflective aluminum, 24 by 36 inches, exact wording required by City Code 12 to 8.040, mounted on breakaway posts at heights that satisfied both the ADA and common sense. I installed them myself with a cordless impact driver and tamper-proof Torx bits. I replaced every camera on the property with Hikvision 4K color night vision turrets, 360-degree coverage, cloud backup to 4 separate continents, geofencing alerts, and 2-way audio loud enough to wake the dead. Then I walked into Ace Towing and Recovery on a Wednesday morning and shook hands with Marcus Thibodeau, a 285-pound Cajun who had towed diplomat-plated Maybachs out of the Potomac, NFL player Lamborghinis off golf courses, and once removed a Ferrari from a hotel swimming pool in Virginia Beach without ever raising his voice. I paid a $1,000 retainer and left with a contract that guaranteed response within 10 minutes of my call, 24 hours a day, rain or shine. On the first Monday in May, I mailed Dylan a certified letter, return receipt requested, signature required, 12 pages single-spaced, every citation underlined in red, every consequence spelled out in language so clear a third grader could understand it. 72-hour final notice under Municipal Code 12 to 8.040 and State Vehicle Code 22851. After that deadline, any vehicle on my property without written permission would be removed at owner's expense and held for 30 days. If unclaimed, it would be sold at lien auction. If no bidder covered fees, I, as lien holder of record, could authorize disposal, including scrap crushing. The green return receipt card came back signed D. Brooks at 11:07 a.m. At 11:12 he posted the entire letter on TikTok with the caption, "Local boomer thinks he's John Wick now." At 11:19 he posted a 30-second clip of himself tearing the last page in half, while his friends howled like hyenas. At 11:27 he announced to 58,000 followers, "Tomorrow we bring the whole squad. 10 cars. Full DJ setup. Live stream all morning. Let's see what Grandpa's little signs actually do." The 72 hours that followed were the loudest, ugliest, most public 3 days in the history of Willow Creek. Tuesday, 7:30 a.m. 6 cars, 12 kids, lawn chairs, a JBL party box the size of a refrigerator blasting Travis Scott at 108 decibels. Dylan livestreamed under the title Operation Boomer Tears, Day 1. The chat was pure chaos. Wednesday, 7:30 a.m. 8 cars, a folding table, bags of Zapp's chips, a beer pong setup using my garden hose as the center line. Someone spray-painted OK Boomer in washable paint on my garage door. It took me 4 hours with a 4,000 psi pressure washer to remove it. Thursday, 7:30 a.m. 10 cars, 27 kids, 2 portable speakers, a banner strung between my oaks that red parking is a human right, and a portable generator running a cotton candy machine. Kimberly arrived at 8:05 with 3 boxes of Krispy Kreme, a selfie stick, and a Facebook Live declaring, "We stand united with our youth against the weaponization of outdated ordinances by toxic territorial seniors." She had 312 viewers at peak. Every decibel, every Red Bull can, every middle finger to my cameras was recorded in 4K from 10 angles and backed up to 5 separate continents. Thursday night, I sat on the porch with a glass of Maker's Mark I didn't taste and watched the jasmine sway. I spoke to Eleanor the way I had every night since the funeral. "They think this is about concrete, Ellie. It's about the mornings you're not here to see." Friday, 7:29 and 59 seconds a.m. The 72-hour clock hit zero. At 7 hours and 30 minutes Dylan rolled in leading the convoy like a returning war hero. He parked dead center, stepped out in slow motion, looked straight into my main camera, and delivered the longest, slowest, most theatrical middle finger in the history of human gesture. Then he mouthed 2 words I read perfectly. "Your move." At 7:35 the street filled with the diesel growl of a 75-foot city-contracted flatbed. Marcus Thibodeau stepped out with a clipboard thick enough to stop a .45 and walked up my path like he was collecting a debt older than sin. Dylan's smirk lasted 4 full seconds. Then the hydraulic rams started whining and the chat on his live stream turned into a blur of fire emojis and laughing crying faces. Marcus handed me the tow authorization. I signed in black ink with the fountain pen Eleanor gave me on our 30th anniversary. He turned to Dylan with the calm of a man who had done this 1,000 mornings before. "Step away from the vehicle, son. This is a legal private property removal under Municipal Code 12 to 8.040. All documentation has been pre-verified by the city attorney's office. You have 30 seconds to clear the area or you will be cited for interference with a municipal contractor." Dylan tried every play in the entitled kid playbook. He stood in front of the Porsche screaming about Grand Theft Auto. He physically placed his body between the hook and the tow eye. He called me every name a 21-year-old thinks is original. His friends formed a human chain and started chanting, "Hell no, we won't go." Marcus waited. He had all morning and a court order. Kimberly came sprinting across the street in bedroom slippers and a silk robe that cost more than most people's rent. Phone already live on Facebook. "This is theft. This is grand larceny. I'm calling the chief right now." She did. On speaker. The entire block heard Chief Morrison tell her, in the weary voice of a man who had taken her campaign donation and still had to follow the law. Kim, if Charlie Whitaker's paperwork is clean, my hands are tied. You know how this works. Do not make me send a unit out there to arrest your son for interference. The hook dropped at 7:42 a.m. The front wheels of the Porsche lifted off my driveway like the hand of God had finally run out of patience. Dylan ran alongside it screaming. One of his friends tried to jump on the flatbed and Marcus simply put one massive hand on the kid's chest and set him back on the curb like a bouncer removing a drunk from church. Kimberly threatened lawsuits, criminal charges, the city council, the governor, the attorney general, the FBI, and finally God himself. Every call ended the same way. The flatbed turned the corner at 7:49 a.m. with $89,000 of spoiled rich kids swinging beneath it like a piñata full of consequences. The 30-day countdown began. Day 1 to 5. Dylan's TikTok became a daily vlog titled My Life Without My Porsche. Views skyrocketed. Day 6. Fees hit $1,100. He started a GoFundMe titled, Help Me Fight Boomer Extortion. The top comment, pinned by Dylan himself, read, Play stupid games, win stupid prizes, with 68,000 likes. Day 9. Kimberly hired Morrison, Hargrove, and Dean. The senior partner requested my evidence binder. I overnighted it. He fired her as a client by 3:47 p.m. The same day, Day 14, Dylan showed up at my door at 11:03 p.m. drunk and crying, begging me to call it off. I closed the door without a word. My cameras recorded him sitting on my welcome mat until 2:14 a.m., sobbing into his hoodie. Day 19. Fees crossed $2,000. Dylan sold his Apple Vision Pro, his Canada Goose jacket, his girlfriend's birthday necklace, his gaming PC, and finally his grandfather's vintage Rolex to try to close the gap. Day 24. He started working double shifts at Waffle House on Route 60. His TikTok followers watched a 21-year-old trust fund kid learn how to scrape a grill at 4:45 a.m. while wearing a hairnet and a name tag that read DJ. Day 28. He posted a video from the parking lot of the impound yard at 2:17 a.m., just sitting in his 12-year-old Civic, crying so hard the camera shook. I get it now. I really do. I just don't have the money. Day 30. The lien auction came and went. Not a single bid. Luxury cars with $2,000 liens don't sell to anyone with a pulse. Day 31. 8:02 a.m. My phone rang. Mr. Whitaker, this is Ronnie at County Impound. No bidders yesterday. The 2024 Porsche is scheduled for crush at 1000 hours. You're the disposing party of record. Do we proceed? I told him I would be there in person. I pulled into the scrapyard at 9:46 a.m. Dylan was already waiting by the gate, looking like a man who had aged 20 years and 31 days. His hair was greasy, his hoodie 2 sizes too big, his eyes bloodshot and hollow. He held a bank envelope fat with cash and what was left of his pride. Mr. Whitaker, Charlie, please. I have $3,400 cash right here. I know it's more than the fees. I get it now. I swear on my grandfather's grave I get it. I'll do anything. I'll mow your lawn for the rest of my life. I'll wash your car every week. Just don't do this. I looked at him for a long time. You had 30 days and 72 hours to get it, Dylan. The window closed yesterday at 5. Behind him the crusher operator was warming the hydraulics. It sounded like a dragon clearing its throat. Kimberly's white Escalade came screaming into the lot at 9:59, tires smoking. She jumped out still in bedroom slippers and ran toward us like she could still fix this with volume and connections and the sheer force of having always been right. She saw the envelope in Dylan's shaking hands. She saw my face. For the first time in 3 months, Kimberly Brooks had nothing to say. They walked the Porsche to the crush pad together. Mother and son, side by side, watching the last symbol of their immunity roll forward on a conveyor belt under a cold gray sky. Ronnie, the operator, looked at me over the roof of what used to be a $90,000 car. Final confirmation, Mr. Whitaker. You are authorizing disposal per state vehicle code 22851 subsection O. I thought about Eleanor's roses shaking loose petals every time the bass hit too hard. I thought about the mornings I couldn't pull into my own garage because some kid thought grief made me an easy mark. I thought about every okay boomer, every crushed monster can glittering in my grass like shrapnel. Every night I sat in the dark wondering if the world had forgotten that widows deserve peace. I looked Dylan dead in the eye and nodded. The jaws came down. First the roof buckled with a sound like a spine snapping. Then the hood folded like tinfoil. Glass exploded outward in a glittering cloud. The sound was biblical. Metal screaming, hydraulics roaring. $89,000 reduced to a cube the size of a dishwasher in 43 seconds flat. Dylan dropped to his knees in the gravel and made a sound I hope I never hear again from another human being. Kimberly stood frozen, mouth open, watching the last piece of her perfect life get compacted into scrap. When it was over, Ronnie handed me the disposal certificate and said, "Pleasure doing strictly legal business with you, sir." 8 months later, Dylan showed up at my door on a Saturday morning with a handwritten letter, a request to volunteer at the senior center every single day for the next 10 years, and a question he asks me every Tuesday over coffee. Mr. Whitaker, Charlie, was there any point where you almost showed mercy? I tell him the truth. Every single day, son. But mercy without consequences is just another word for enabling. And I was done enabling. Kimberly was removed from the HOA board by a vote of 42-3 in a meeting so crowded they had to open the clubhouse doors and set up folding chairs in the parking lot. The three holdouts were her tennis doubles partners who haven't spoken to her since. I still drink my coffee at 7:15, water Eleanor's roses at 7:20, and sit on the porch at 7:30 watching the jasmine bloom twice a year. My driveway has stayed empty ever since. Sometimes justice doesn't look like screaming or fists or even raised voices. Sometimes it looks like a clipboard, a certified letter, 31 days on a calendar, and the sound of $89,000 being turned into a perfect red cube while a grown man finally learns that some lessons can only be taught in a language made of steel and finality. So tell me straight, folks, no sugarcoating. When someone spends 3 straight months turning your grief into content, when do you stop turning the other cheek and start speaking the only language they've ever bothered to learn? Was crushing that Porsche too far, or was it the first time anyone ever spoke to Dylan Brooks in a voice loud enough to get through the noise? Drop your stories below. Tell me where you would have drawn the line, or if you ever had to draw one at all. I read every single comment, and I want to know yours.